The whole village of Umuaka gathered at the village square for the annual yam festival. The air was thick with the smell of roasted meat and fresh palm wine. The young girls danced, their waist beats jingling to the rhythm of the talking drum. The elders sat under the big udola tree, chewing kola nut and discussing village matters. But in one corner, a woman sat alone, her eyes heavy with unshed tears. Her name was Oluchi, but the villagers called her Noni Ebegi, the woman without a child. It had been 10 years since she married Obina, and still, her womb refused to carry a child. Look at her sitting there like a carved statue, sneered Adan, one of the village women. She has eaten all the food in her husband's house, yet she cannot give him even one child. Laughter rang out around them. Oluchi swallowed hard and turned away, pretending not to hear. But her heart bled. Her mother-in-law, Mama Obina, never let her forget her shame. Every morning, she would stand outside Oluchi's hut and sigh loudly. "Chai. My son has wasted his youth on a dry tree," she would say. If only he had married a real woman. Obina, her husband, who had once loved her deeply, had now grown cold. He no longer came to her hut at night. Instead, he spent his time with Edeora, a young widow in the village. One evening, as Oluchi prepared dinner, she heard Obina's voice outside. "I am tired, Mama," he was saying. "I will take another wife. I cannot let my name die because of this woman." The words cut through Oluchi like a sharp knife. She dropped the wooden spoon she was holding. It clattered to the floor, but no one noticed. Her own husband had given up on her. That night, she sat outside under the moonlight, her hands trembling. Tears ran down her cheeks. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Chukwu, have I offended you? Why have you closed my womb? Have mercy on me." But the gods were silent. The days passed, and the mockery grew worse. At the stream, the women splashed her with water, laughing at her. At the market, they whispered behind her back. Even the children sang songs about the woman who cannot be called Mama. One fateful morning, a great announcement was made. The chief priest of the shrine had spoken, "A barren woman brings bad luck. She must be cast out, or calamity will fall upon Umuaka." The villagers murmured. Some nodded in agreement, others looked away. But Oluchi's heart pounded like a drum. Was this how her story would end? As the elders gathered to decide her fate, something happened that would shake the entire village to its core. The village square was tense. The elders sat in a circle, their faces dark with worry. Mama Obina smirked, certain that Oluchi's fate was sealed. "The gods have spoken," said Chief Okeke. "If we do not cast her out, misfortune will follow." Just as the crowd erupted into agreement, a deep voice interrupted them. "Wait." The voice belonged to an old man, his beard white as the morning mist. No one had seen him before. "Who are you?" Chief Okeke asked. "I am merely a traveler," the old man said. "But I bring a message from the spirits. This woman is not cursed. She is chosen." The villagers gasped. Mama Obina scoffed. "This is madness. How can a barren woman be chosen?" The old man pointed at Oluchi. "Your suffering will end soon. You will bear a child, but not just any child. A child who will bring greatness to Umuaka." Whispers spread through the crowd. Oluchi's eyes filled with hope. But Mama Obina spat on the ground. "Lies. If she does not live, then I will." Obina looked uncertain, torn between his mother's words and the prophecy. The elders debated, but before they could reach a decision, a loud scream rang out. A young boy came running. "The river. The river has turned red." The villagers rushed to the stream. Indeed, the clear water had turned to the color of blood. Fear gripped their hearts. The old man smiled knowingly. The gods have given a sign. Her time is near. Was this truly a blessing or a curse? Oluchi shivered, not knowing what awaited her. The night was heavy with whispers as the villagers gathered in small groups, discussing the strange events of the day. The Red River had struck fear into their hearts, but some still doubted the old man's words. Mama Obina scoffed loudly, "Do not let this trickery deceive you. The gods have never chosen a barren woman. We must cast her out before more calamity befalls us." But before the elders could respond, the old man raised his hand. The gods have given their sign, but they require proof of faith. Oluchi must go to the shrine of Amedioha alone and seek his blessing. Only then shall we know the truth. The villagers gasped. The shrine of Amedioha was deep in the forbidden forest, a place feared by all. No one dared enter it at night, for it was said to be guarded by spirits. Oluchi swallowed hard. "I will go." The crowd fell silent. Obina looked at her with wide eyes. "You cannot. It is dangerous." She lifted her chin. "If the gods have chosen me, they will protect me. If not, then I am not meant to live." Chief Okeke nodded. "So be it. At dawn, she shall go alone. And we shall wait for her return." As Oluchi lay awake that night, she knew her fate was no longer in her hands. She would either find favor with the gods or perish in the forest. At the first light of dawn, Oluchi stood at the edge of the forbidden forest. A thick mist clung to the trees, and the distant hoot of an owl sent chills down her spine. The villagers watched from afar, whispering among themselves. She took a deep breath and stepped into the forest. The deeper she walked, the darker it became. Strange sounds echoed around her, rustling leaves, distant whispers, the snap of twigs. She clutched the small calabash of palm oil the old man had given her and pressed on. Suddenly, a figure appeared before her. It was an old woman with piercing eyes and long, white hair. "Why have you come?" the woman asked in a voice that was both gentle and powerful. Oluchi fell to her knees. "I seek the blessing of Amedioha. The gods have chosen me." The old woman studied her for a long time, then nodded. "You must prove your worth. Face the 3 trials of the gods." Oluchi squared her shoulders as the old woman led her to a clearing. "Your first trial," the woman said, "is to retrieve the stone of truth from the river of darkness. But beware, liars and cowards do not return." Oluchi took a deep breath and stepped forward. Oluchi stood at the edge of a massive cave, her heart pounding. The old woman who guided her through the trials pointed at the darkness within. "Your second trial lies inside," she said. "You must retrieve the fire of courage." Oluchi swallowed hard. "What must I do?" The old woman's eyes glowed. "Inside the cave is a spirit who feeds on fear. If you are afraid, it will consume you. But if you stand firm, you will receive the fire of courage." Taking a deep breath, Oluchukwu stepped into the cave. Darkness swallowed her whole, and a chilling wind howled through the tunnels. She walked forward, her hands stretched out, feeling the rough walls. Then she heard it. A deep, growling voice echoed through the cave. "Who dares enter my domain?" A shadow moved ahead, growing larger and larger. It took shape, a massive beast with glowing red eyes, its breath hot like fire. Oluchukwu's knees trembled, but she clenched her fists. "I am Oluchukwu, and I have come for the fire of courage." The beast laughed, a rumbling sound that shook the walls. "You, a mere woman. Your people have mocked you, shamed you. You are weak. No, Oluchukwu shouted. I am not weak. I have walked through shame and pain. I have faced death. I will not be afraid of you. The beast roared and charged at her. But instead of running, Oluchukwu stood her ground. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting her courage rise within her like a flame. A sudden light burst from her chest, blinding the beast. It howled and shrank away. In its place, a small golden flame flickered in the air. Oluchukwu reached out and took it. Warmth filled her body, and her fear melted away. The cave trembled, and a voice whispered, "You have passed the second trial. Go forth to your final test." As Oluchukwu stepped out of the cave, the old woman nodded. "One more trial remains. Are you ready?" Oluchukwu looked at the sky. "I am ready." Oluchukwu followed the old woman to the foot of a towering mountain. "Your final trial awaits at the peak," the old woman said. "You must climb and retrieve the stone of destiny. But beware, the mountain tests the soul. Only the worthy succeed." Oluchukwu set her jaw. She had come too far to turn back now. Oluchukwu took a deep breath and began her climb. The mountain was steep, its rocky surface jagged and unwelcoming. Cold winds howled around her, whispering doubts into her ears. "Turn back," the wind seemed to say. "You are not strong enough." She gritted her teeth and kept going. With each step, the weight of her past, her pain, her shame, her struggles, threatened to pull her down. But she refused to yield. Halfway up, she encountered a chasm too wide to jump across. A rickety bridge swayed in the wind. Oluchukwu hesitated. One wrong step, and she would fall to her death. A voice echoed in her mind. "Trust in yourself." With steady steps, she crossed the bridge, her heart pounding. The moment she reached the other side, the bridge crumbled behind her. There was no going back. Higher and higher she climbed, until she reached a cave glowing with an eerie blue light. Inside, resting on a stone pedestal, was the stone of destiny. But before she could touch it, a shadowy figure emerged. "Who dares seek the stone?" it demanded. "I am Oluchukwu, and I have come to claim my destiny." The figure's eyes glowed. "To take the stone, you must surrender your deepest fear." "What is it?" Oluchukwu swallowed hard. "I fear being forgotten. I fear that my pain was for nothing." The figure nodded. "Then let go. Embrace your strength." She reached for the stone. The moment her fingers touched it, a surge of power filled her veins. The mountain shook, and the winds roared in approval. She had passed the final trial. As she descended, a new strength burned in her heart. She was no longer just Oluchukwu the barren woman. She was Oluchukwu, the chosen one. She was ready to return to Umuaka. With the stone of destiny in her hands, Oluchukwu descended the mountain, her heart steady, her spirit renewed. The winds that once whispered doubt now carried her triumph. As she stepped into Umuaka, the villagers gasped. She was no longer the weak, barren woman they had mocked, she was transformed. The chief priest ran forward, eyes wide with shock. "The gods have spoken," he declared. "She carries the blessing of the ancestors." Mama Obina, upon seeing her, fell to the ground, trembling. "Oluchukwu, forgive me. I did not know." Obina, her husband, pushed through the crowd. He stared at her with wonder. "Oluchukwu, I was blind. Can you ever forgive me?" Oluchukwu smiled, but she did not answer. She walked past them all and straight to the shrine, where the elders awaited her. She placed the stone before them, and at that moment, the sky rumbled. A soft rain began to fall, cleansing the village. From this day forward, the chief priest proclaimed, "No woman shall be mocked for her womb. Oluchukwu has broken the curse." And just as the prophecy foretold, within moons, Oluchukwu conceived. She bore a son, strong and wise, who would grow to become the greatest leader Umuaka had ever known. As the village danced in celebration, Oluchukwu looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Chukwu." She had suffered. She had been shamed. But in the end, she had been chosen.